Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. In full disclosure, most media outlets, including here at Cleveland 19, we don't do a whole lot of reporting on runaway missing children because it's this understanding that it then creates this idea that if a kid wants to run away, they'll get on the news, it promotes it. And so therefore, we generally don't report on missing children that are runaways. If it's an abduction, that's clearly a completely different matter. But when we see numbers like we have over the past couple of weeks within the city of Cleveland itself, it is something that has gotten our attention and perhaps should get the attention of the public and especially parents. We're looking at the Cleveland Police Missing Persons website, and you can filter this by date, meaning the date that they were reported missing by family members or guardians. And there have been 27 such reports in the last 2 weeks. You can just scroll through the list. The top of the list, Malaysia Maxwell, missing 1 day, 17 years old. There's 3 individuals that have been missing for a day, and then we get to 2 days missing when we see Amani Brady, then Natalie Clark. We can even now switch to the second page of missing individuals. Some of them have pictures, like you can see Derek Hamilton there, age 15. He has been missing 5 days. Ebony S. Scott missing 4 days. And we can get to page 3. We can see Serenity Perry has been missing 9 days. Amari Woods, age 18, missing 7 days. It is again starting to become an alarming number of children, 18 and under, that have been reported missing by family. The question is why, and what is it perhaps about this time of year that is causing this? We're going to bring in Newburgh Heights Police Chief John Majoy, but we're bringing Chief Majoy in because these are obviously Cleveland cases. We're bringing him in as board president of Cleveland Missing. That is the organization that was created by Gina DeJesus, Sylvia Colon, from that situation of the 3 missing girls, that there was not support for the family members when they had someone go missing. And the great part about Cleveland Missing, in full disclosure, I also sit on that board. The great thing about Cleveland Missing is it doesn't matter if it's an abduction or a runaway case. Cleveland Missing is there to help families all over Northeast Ohio. Chief, welcome in. How are you today?
Doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this important topic. When you hear 27 reported missing children, 18, 17 years of age and under, in one community, what does that ring off in your head? What does it make you think?
Well, it's definitely an alarming number. There's no doubt about that. And, I think that there's probably a number of variables that contribute to it. Some of them may be runaways, which is possible. Some of them may be not a runaway. They may be being held against their will or involuntary, or they were lured away by drugs or prostitution or something else. And we don't want to cast too negative a light on it, but we also have to be open-minded that these young folks, they're extremely vulnerable, and they can be victimized and not even know it.
Let's talk about the time of year. It's getting towards the end of the school year. It's getting warmer out. Why do those things factor in? As the chief of police and as actually the board president of not only Northeast Ohio Amber Alert Committee, but Cleveland Missing, what is it about spring heading into summer that creates more missing person reports?
Well, I think it's just really the mindset that, it's been really cold. People have been cooped up, and all of a sudden now spring is here. You got the warm feeling. There's much more daylight that's going into the evening hours versus getting dark at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. The end of the school year, where kids are letting loose a little bit and celebrating the end of the school year. And again, they might just be lured away, from their homes for various reasons. And so I think that there's a number of variables to be taken into account. But I also think it's important to emphasize that none of these should be taken lightly at all, because this is how someone, may be missing a day or two, but all of a sudden a day or two becomes 3, becomes a week, becomes a month, becomes a year. Then we got a really big problem on our hands. And so this is why we need the public's help to bring as much awareness as we possibly can.
Let's put this into perspective just a little bit for our viewers. The city of Cleveland right now for 17 and under has 56 open missing person cases. Now, some of those do unfortunately date a year, maybe more, maybe 2-3 years. But if they have 56 open cases and 27 of them are in the last 2 weeks, that really puts it into perspective. More than half of the active cases are all within the last 2 weeks. Chief, let's talk about the social media component. You in our email earlier were talking about what parents really need to be doing, especially now that they're not going to be in school. They don't have that sort of safe place. You're not going to find out if they don't show up to school on a particular day. What do you want to advise parents? What is the best thing for them to be doing now?
Well, I have several key pieces of advice, Dan, to share. And starting with social media, and parents should really keep an eye on the trends of the social media of their children because it's so very easy to be victimized. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there, and they purport themselves as a friend to someone, but they're not a friend. And so they don't want to do good. They want to do harm to the individual. And so I think that that's one of the main key factors. But another key factor is that, when you showed the list there just a couple minutes ago, there was a few of them that said no image available. And, you would think that parents would have photos of their kids, but some don't. And so the advice that I would have is make sure parents have a current photo of all their children and so they can share that because, nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks that they're going to be a victim of a crime or family's going to be a victim of a runaway or an abduction or something like that. And so, don't wait until something like this happens to get yourself ready. Get yourself ready now. If you never need the picture, then that's great. That's fine. But if you have it in a situation like this, and again, we saw some of these, there's just no photos to share. And that makes it really, really hard because we can't put a face with a name. We can only just have a name. And so, but again, I think the social media component is a really, really big one. Monitoring their cell phone activities and things, monitoring the folks that they're hanging out with, where are they going, what places are they visiting, how's their attendance at school as of late, are they skipping school? There's just a number of variables to weigh in on.
Let's talk about Cleveland Missing. You sit on the board as board president. It is the first and only of its kind organization in the country that is there for families in this exact situation. At Cleveland Missing, are you seeing an increase in calls for help by loved ones?
We have seen a slight uptick in some of the calls that we've received. We don't get calls from every missing persons case that you see on news. However, the families, when they do reach out to us, we are there to help them. Now, to be clear, we do not investigate missing persons cases. That is the duty of law enforcement officers, as we know. However, we will provide support for families. So if they need to have flyers made, they want to do a press conference, they need to help us broadcast some things out, they need support services, whatever the case may be. We have members of our board who have experience in a number of different fields. And so we can bring that utility to aid law enforcement, but we will not take the place of law enforcement during their investigation.
Chief, as we always do, we leave our interviewees with the final word. 27 missing individuals, kids, just in the city of Cleveland and just in the past 2 weeks. This is pretty serious. It's that time of year. What do you want to leave parents and viewers with? What kind of message?
So I think a closing message I want to leave is that every time that you see a missing persons flyer, a news article, or some sort of pop-up on your social media or anything like that, take a couple minutes and take a look at it because the public is our biggest asset. And if somebody sees something, then they need to say something. Or, if they're in a certain situation and they see a group of kids and something doesn't seem right, then call law enforcement and say, hey, listen, something didn't seem right. This person over here didn't seem like they were comfortable with this group. Or you saw somebody get pushed into a car or something. You just never know. And as law enforcement, we would rather go on calls where nothing happens and there's a safe outcome than not get that call where somebody had that key piece of information and they didn't share it with us.
Very good advice. Newburgh Heights Police Chief John Majoy, also president of the board for Cleveland Missing. Chief, we appreciate the time. We know you're busy wearing multiple hats, so thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
All right, take care, sir. Just again, we don't normally report on runaway situations, and we're not saying all 27 are runaway. In fact, we're not sure how many are runaways or possible. Maybe they met somebody online or they went to stay with somebody they thought was a friend. But the bottom line is they are minors, and this is an issue. So we wanted to shine a light on it in case you might be able to help. We showed you that list. I'm going to pull it up again here. This is the list that is available to all the public. This is not just because we're a news organization. If you type into Google or if you go to cleveland19.com, I've included a link in this story that takes you right to this list of missing children, and it is sorted by age. We can show you a couple more that are in the last 2 weeks. At the very top, Caitlin Helnick Johnson. She's 14. She's been missing 10 days. Then we have Scarlett Mohanan, missing 11 days. And age 15. And then you can see we start to get into some adult cases with Charlotta, but just under Charlotta, we get to Malachi K. Berry, 17 years old, and he has been missing for 13 days. All over Cleveland, there are family members who are wondering where these individuals are. Go through that list, scroll through it. Do you recognize any of these kids? Is there a new kid in your neighborhood that's been hanging out, maybe on the playground? You could be the link to getting some loved one back to their parents, or at least give them the information or give the information to police as to where they are. We're going to continue our push. This isn't just a one-time deal. This is an area that obviously has a soft spot in my heart, but all of us here at Cleveland 19, when you hear about missing people and missing children, it's time to stop and take a look. If we have any other breaking news, we're going to bring it to you here on our digital platforms. Remember, we have 3.5 hours of news starting in just 45 minutes on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on